The sun had not yet conquered the morning chill when Julio arrived at the hospital. Wrapped in a worn-out blanket, he leaned on a makeshift cane fashioned from a dry branch. His steps were slow, marked by a pain that had been growing in his chest for days. Even so, he remained silent. He asked for nothing more than a glance, a gesture, some attention. He entered through the side door of the emergency room, as if he already knew they might not even let him in through the main entrance. He sat in the corner of the waiting room, away from the other patients. Some looked away, others covered their noses. The nurse at the desk pretended not to see him. "Ma'am?" he tried to call out in a hoarse voice. "I've had chest pain since yesterday." She didn't answer. She just looked up for a moment and went back to typing on the computer. Julio waited. Half an hour. Then an hour. Time dragged on. The pain tightened. When a stretcher rushed down the hallway, he thought about standing up and shouting, but something inside held him back. It was the same instinct that made him sleep sitting up with one eye open on the city sidewalks. The fear of being seen as a threat. That's when the doctor walked into the room, white coat spotless and expression weary. Dr. Renato, in his early 40s, walked quickly, impatience etched on his face. Julio tried to approach. "Doctor, excuse me. I'm feeling..." "Here we go," the doctor muttered without stopping. "Listen, sir, this isn't a shelter, it's a hospital. You smell strong, you're dirty, and you don't even have a file. Go to social services." "But I'm having chest pain, doctor." "Chest pain? Who isn't? Take a shower, get a job, and then we'll talk." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Two nurses exchanged glances. A young man waiting for his appointment discreetly recorded it on his phone. Julio stood still, frozen, as if he'd been punched in the gut. His eyes welled up, but he didn't respond. He simply turned slowly, leaned once more on his branch cane and left quietly. Outside, the wind was sharp. He walked a few steps, leaned against the wall and sat down on the sidewalk. He was breathing with difficulty but didn't want to draw attention. No one offered help. They passed by him as if he weren't there, as they always had. That morning, more than the pain in his chest, what hurt was the weight of being invisible. That same night, a video began circulating on social media. It was short, shaky, discreetly recorded by a patient in the waiting room. It captured the exact moment Dr. Renato turned his back on Julio, his cruel remark echoing. "Take a shower, get a job, and then we'll talk." Within hours, the video had surpassed 100,000 views. Comments poured in at a frantic pace, some outraged, others in disbelief, and a few, unfortunately, defending the doctor's behavior. But among the avalanche of voices, one rose strongly, that of Mariana, a young medical resident who had witnessed everything. On her personal profile, Mariana wrote, "I'm a medical student, and today I saw medicine trampled by a colleague. A black man in pain was treated like garbage. This is not medicine. This is a crime." Her post went even more viral than the video itself. News outlets began reporting on the case. The hospital was forced to issue a generic statement, "We are looking into the matter." Internally, however, the administration tried to suppress the story. Dr. Renato was one of the hospital's most senior physicians. He had influence, friends in high places. But social media doesn't forget so easily. Meanwhile, Julio disappeared. Volunteers searched for him in the streets near the hospital. They went to shelters, the bus terminal, alleyways downtown. Nothing. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, carried away by the same indifference that had followed him for years. A social worker who recognized him in passing said, "He was quiet but polite. Said he used to be a teacher. Never bothered anyone." The sentence lingered in the air, said he used to be a teacher. Some journalists began to investigate. Who was that man who remained silent in the face of public humiliation? Who didn't shout, didn't protest, just accepted it and disappeared? In the governor's office, the video was handed over by an aide. He watched it in silence, his jaw tight. He knew he couldn't ignore what he had just seen. "Schedule a press conference for tomorrow. I want to address this, personally." Far from there, on a dark, forgotten street in the city center, Julio slept sitting behind a shuttered newsstand. The pain in his chest had eased, but not because he was getting better. His body was simply beginning to give up. And as he slept, the entire country was finally beginning to want to know who he was. The auditorium at the state government headquarters was packed. Cameras lined up, reporters alert. The governor walked in with firm steps, his face heavy with seriousness. There was no room for empty political speeches. The entire country was watching. What we saw in that video is not an isolated incident. It's the reflection of a deep, festering wound in this country, structural racism, indifference to poverty, and the trivialization of lives that have nowhere to fall. The state has failed, and it will answer for that. His words echoed not only in the room but across social media, on newscasts, and over the radio throughout the country. In closing, he announced the launch of a formal investigation into the doctor and the hospital's management, along with the creation of a program for humane care for people experiencing homelessness. But while the political stage buzzed, a journalist from the countryside was doing quieter and far more powerful work. Her name was Lucia Prado, and after days of research she discovered the identity of the invisible man in the video. Julio Cesar Almeida. Bachelor's degree in literature from the Federal University of Paraná. Brazilian literature teacher for 14 years. Author of respected articles on Lima Barreto and Carolina Maria de Jesus. Father of 2. Widower. The tragedy began 8 years earlier, when a car accident took the lives of his wife and youngest daughter. The Julio who returned from the funeral was no longer the same. He tried to keep teaching, but the silences in his classroom grew longer. The absences too. One day he disappeared. His eldest son, a teenager at the time, went to live with relatives. Julio, overwhelmed by depression, let everything go. And fell. The report, aired on national television, stunned the country. A photo of Julio, taken years before, light-colored suit, book in hand, a shy smile, became the symbol of a society that abandons its most sensitive souls. The headline read, "The Invisible Professor, How We Lost a Man Because We Didn't Know How to See Him." At the hospital, Dr. Renato was placed on temporary leave. Too late to salvage his image, the public had already passed judgment. He tried to defend himself. "I'm not racist. I was just tired. The system is broken." But no one was listening. For the first time it was he who spoke and was not heard. Mariana, the resident who had spoken out, was invited to join the hospital's new ethics committee. She became a spokesperson for the fight for dignity in public healthcare. To be a doctor is, above all, to see the human being, even when the whole world refuses to. Meanwhile, Julio was still somewhere in the city. Weak, silent. And unaware that, this time, the whole world needed, to find him. They found Julio 3 days after the report aired, lying beneath an overpass, weak, feverish, eyes sunken, body trembling. A group of volunteers, accompanied by a journalism team and a social worker, located him after cross-checking information and scouring the streets where he used to take shelter. He was conscious but not surprised. As if he had always known that someone would come, not to help but to truly see him. "Professor Julio?" the nurse asked, kneeling beside him. He nodded slightly. One of the volunteers wept silently. Another pulled a new blanket from her backpack and gently covered him. Julio was taken to a state hospital, admitted to a private wing to protect him from the press. He finally received the care he should have gotten from the beginning. Tests, food, a hot bath, a clean bed. He slept for almost 20 hours straight. When he woke up, there was a letter waiting for him, signed by the governor. "Professor Julio. On behalf of a state that failed to protect you, I offer my deepest apologies. You are more than a victim of neglect. You are a symbol of a country that is still learning to look into the eyes of the forgotten. Your story will no longer be ignored." A few days later, the governor visited Julio in person. It was an improbable scene, the head of the state's executive branch standing before a simple man sitting in a hospital chair, with trembling hands and eyes heavy with memories. "I came because I needed to hear you," the governor said. Julio took a deep breath and replied in a weak voice, "I don't want anything, sir. I don't want fame or revenge." "Then what do you want?" "That the next person doesn't have to go through what I did. That's all. That someone chooses to see." The meeting was captured in a discreet photo. No flash, no speech. Just two men, two worlds, separated by a chasm of reality trying to meet halfway. Months later, Julio began offering reading workshops at a public shelter. He read poetry and told stories to youth experiencing homelessness. Most of them sat in silence, eyes fixed on him, as if listening to someone speaking from a place they knew all too well. On the wall of the room where the workshops were held, there was a simple sign, handmade by one of the boys. "No life is invisible." And there, beneath the sound of words that heal, the man once ignored by the world taught, once again, the power of truly seeing.